the Bowels of Netflix, where your fearless co-hosts Isaac and Larry force each other to watch the worst pieces of shit on Netflix. We will go over every bad edit, all the broken dialogue, all the wooden acting, and laugh along the way, because this is the Bowels of Netflix! Alright, welcome to the Bowels of Netflix. I am Isaac, and my co-host and master of the clitoris is Larry. How are you doing this week, Larry?
Boy, I miss sex. Thank you for that reminder of my life.
You'll get it back, and you'll master it as you have before once again.
Yeah,
and the world will tremble beneath your feet.
I don't like. Let's not equate people's forced subservience with my sexual life, please.
No, like,
because the world trembling at my feet sure sounds a lot like
trembling in a good way.
That's a fair point. Although I don't know that I'm just gonna sing the Leo the Lion song.
Like when you start, just your knees shake really hard when you come, like, super hard in the middle of a honey-baked ham. That kind of tremble.
You know, I find that while the honey glazing does make it easier, the expense has become far too great to outweigh cheaper.
No, it's worth it, because also you get a nice crotch aroma for, like, the following week, as long as you don't shower.
Is the ham get my crotch aroma, or does my crotch have a ham aroma?
Your crotch has, like, the honey sweetness and the savory of the ham, and, like, salty, too, like, yeah.
Oh boy, this is gonna really be awesome when they play this at the Christmas dinner, my family Christmas dinner.
And at our funerals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which should be upcoming shortly. We'll let you know when they're scheduled.
Oh, yours is coming soon. Oh boy, this is a bad one.
Yeah, we are the Bowels of Netflix, and the only thing we hate more than each other is ourselves, which is why we force one another to watch the worst movies on Netflix and go over them inch by inch. We have a Twitter and a Facebook, Bowels of Netflix, hashtag whatever. We have an email address that's bowelsofnetflix@gmail.com. You could drop us a line, give us suggestions, let us know what you think about anything and everything. And don't forget to rate and subscribe on whatever you're listening to this podcast on.
I actually had a few folks in my life asking me where they can find it. You know, still cool. People I know, but like not people, like more acquaintances than like friends I talk to often. So that's pretty cool. So if you guys are listening, hey.
Nice
to see you.
All right.
Or
welcome.
Hear you, or I talk at you.
We feel your presence.
I know how podcasts work. I'm a professional.
All right, Larry, what did you get yourself into this week?
First of all, a little bit of house cleaning for this episode before we get into it. It is, according to my Amazon Echo, it's 86 degrees, 84, 86. I've already forgotten. I don't know, Isaac, did you hear me yelling at it? Do you remember what you said?
Yes, I did. I forget. It was high 80s, I think.
Yeah, it's the high 80s. I'm a dopey fucking idiot and didn't turn my air conditioner on in the bedroom, forgetting I was going to be in here for a couple hours. So it's good and hot. And my last action before starting this, besides pouring myself my first coffee of the day, so I got a good coffee headache going. It's about 2 p.m. I usually start drinking coffee at 7. My last action was to take the dog out, who decided it was too hot to poop. He had not pooped all day. And then he decided it was too hot to move, so he decided to lay down. And then he decided he did not want to come home. So, cut to me, overweight, sweating, in a tank top that doesn't quite fit me, so my big old white man titties are flopping about, carrying a 75-pound greyhound, who's looking up at me as if I just killed his mother, past a pool full of very attractive young women, who just stared at me as I lugged this gigantic dog into the house, who you're probably going to hear howling at some point because he didn't poop, because he's a pain in my ass, and I love him and I hate him at the same time. So you know, things are great here in the Beard household. So that's awesome.
All right, you're in the right mood to record.
It's a perfect backdrop for this little romance. I don't want to say comedy because it's not a comedy. Called Love, Wedding, Marriage.
Love, Wedding, Marriage. Do they have to go in that order, or could it be a different order? Wedding, love, marriage. Now, is there a baby carriage?
Taught me, in the epilogue, yes. What this movie has taught me is that, really, only one of these things matters. And I'm going to let you guys try and roll the dice on which one of those three things you think matters the most to our protagonist. And I hesitate to call her a protagonist.
Oh, God.
Now, I have a lot to say about this movie, but we'll talk about the particulars in a minute. Let's just get to the overarching bits here first. I don't have IMDb up because I'm a fucking schmuck. So, this movie, Isaac, you chose it for me because it had, if I recall correctly, 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, famously 0%. That is a rare accolade.
Yeah, with 19 reviews, which is... There's a lot of 0% movies on Rotten Tomatoes, but they get counted... The more reviews there are at 0%, the better... The more worse they are counted for. That's not proper English, but you understand what I mean. So yes, tomato meter of 0% with an average rating of 1.6 out of 10, and an audience score of 28% with an average rating of 2.8 out of 5. And that is over 2,800 people. Soon to be 2,801 because I will be adding a negative review. As soon as I'm done with this, after I've gotten good and frothy about it, which I will be getting. On IMDb, it holds a 5 out of 10. Once again, which is just telling me that IMDb the credibility is dropping more and more and more with every passing movie. It's either that or my understanding of the human race is just slowly sliding towards zero.
Also, the other thing that we might have to consider is some of these movie studios, to push DVD sales or Netflix ratings or whatever, getting some kind of bot force out there to updoot on these stupid IMDb thing, give it a good rating. I don't know. That's possible. For some of these movies, it seems inexplicable.
Yeah, I could see that for some of these movies, like with the more, with the more bigger, fucking idiot, with the larger studios, the way, like White Chicks, I could see that for sure. Because White Chicks is famously maligned, famously tug of war over whether people love it or hate it. The Flintstones, like things that have larger releases, because most of the stuff we do does not have a theatrical release or a limited theatrical release, which at that point, that's for fucking 12 people in the town of Podunk, Michigan, you know, who the director, it's where his mistress lives, and he wanted her to see it in a surreptitious way. So, but yeah, it's tough to say, but this, there's 8,360 people on IMDb who've given this a rating that made it even out to 5 stars. If that evens out to 5 stars, it must be 10-star ratings, right? Is my math right?
Yeah.
It must be fairly even between 0 and 10, which that does give a lot of merit to your theory about bots, because that's just, I can't.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of empty-headed people that love empty romantic comedies because it sustains the emptiness of their own lives. We'll get into believe me, we'll get into it in more detail than you ever possibly cared about in your life about this movie. But even for a romance, even for a romance movie, it is really bad. Like, let's take my bias, let's take me out of the picture entirely. Like, let's just put CriticBot 3000 in its place. It's a bad movie. It's just not good. It's not written well. It's not shot well. It's acted terribly, and it's not like a throwaway nobody movie. Well, it stars Mandy Moore, who I did look her up, but you know more about her than I do. Yeah, not much, but like you and my wife, both of you do not know or did not know who Mandy Moore was.
Yeah.
Now, you're 2 years younger than me, and she's almost 4 years younger than me, because I'm not a pedophile. But,
well, let's recall that Isaac is 18, so.
Yes. But, yeah, I don't know if it was just because I didn't really pay attention to teeny bop music. She was like B-level Britney Spears in that like late 90s, early 2000s. So you had Britney Spears and Aguilera, who were the two big ones, and then Jessica Simpson was kind of bubbling under the surface, and then one level under her was Mandy Moore. I'm sure you'd recognize some of her songs that you heard I don't know, dances in the late 90s, early 2000s, but...
I recognize the name as being a celebrity, but I didn't even... when you told me, I don't remember if we did it at the end of last episode's show, or if we did it just after we were just kind of shooting the shit afterwards, but I recognize the name, but not that she was a singer. That was news to me. I think you gave me a few of her songs, and nothing really sounded that familiar, so... Kind of odd.
Yeah, I can't think of her.
She was not a complete nobody.
No, yeah, and then she has transitioned into movies. So that's I don't know if she's released an album anytime recently, but she's been doing stupid movies like this for quite a spell.
Yeah, I suppose we should look. I guess we're that kind of show. But this is, oh my god, she was born in 1984. Lord, she's slightly older than you are. That's terrifying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Britney Spears was only born in 1980.
Oh,
blows my mind.
That's right. She voices Rapunzel in the Disney movies, of quite a few of them, and the games and all that. She's the voice of Rapunzel, which that's a fairly big... If you have a Disney role, you're set for life. Disney pays for even
she's doing fine
roles.
For herself.
And Disney
she's never going to work in retail again.
No. And I've heard in other podcasts, I know Disney, if you do a song for Disney, you get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, and she's the lead in a Disney movie, which I've never seen Rapunzel. I assume there's music in it. So yeah. So and that's a big role. That's a notable role. It's a voice acting role, but still. So this is not this movie is odd, and I don't think because I'm going into all this because the statistics are not going to make any fucking sense because it has a $12 million estimated budget, which I cannot express to you enough how little sense that makes to me.
How many fiery car explosions were there?
0.
Oh, wow. She probably commanded a $6 million salary or something.
It is a movie about incredibly rich people. So I imagine a lot of this budget went into the places to make them look incredibly rich. So yeah, that's a decently large... I don't know, I don't know a lot about movie budgets, especially romance movies, which are usually just people talking, and occasionally they're in a sexy location on a beach somewhere or fucking kissing in the rain. I don't look up the budget for The Notebook. The Notebook, as you'll hear me talk about it over and over again, because it's one of the worst. It used to be the worst romance movie until I saw this. That's my most hated romance movie of all time because it's terrible. Okay, well that budget's $29 million, which I also don't understand. Who the fuck is... Okay, stop it, Larry, forget it. Move on. Don't start talking about The Notebook, that'll be the whole episode. But anyway, yeah, so $12 million box office, or $12 million budget for Love, Wedding, Marriage. Now, again, and this is a fact, I haven't found anything else about it, and it doesn't make sense. The gross domestic, what it brought in, the gross, $1,378. But I think that is an error, and I think it's supposed to be million, and I think nobody ever fixed it. I don't know, because that doesn't make sense to me.
It's
even
possible.
If it's in a podunk theater in Michigan, it's got to have made more than that, right?
I think some movies have just a 1 week, one theater release. I think some of these that are more direct to, I think that was with Perfect Sisters. It was a Lifetime movie, and it was never going to really be in theaters, but they just ran it maybe for a week in some Canadian theater, so... Okay. I don't know. I don't know why. So maybe a publicity thing, but I think that's a thing.
That makes sense, but it's just looking at these numbers is really, really staggering.
Yeah, and Perfect Sisters, I think, was much less than $12 million.
Yeah.
But anyway,
this movie made less than $2,000. This movie makes less than I make in a month. It cost $12 million. I haven't cost $12 million. I've just cost many people years of emotional abuse and probably therapy to many people and also myself. But so yeah, which is odd. Also, it has a Lithuanian release, which I didn't look into it because I already have so much to say. I've already taken up a lot of time just on this. But it's just that is keep that fact in your mind that somehow. There's this fucking... I don't understand why it's so little money. What is it? What is it? Where did it come from? Why don't people know about it? Besides it being a pile of shit, it looks like nobody even knows that it's a pile of shit. I'm kind of afraid to...
As we discussed a couple weeks ago on Leo the Lion, that it might be a money laundering front. So possibly Mandy Moore's in bed with the mob.
It could be. Oh, man. I'd like to be... If Mandy Moore's in bed with the mob, that's a threesome I want to be part of. But anyway...
I'm just picturing like all the guys from Goodfellas gangbanging her now, and
I no longer want to be part of it. Okay, so and we're gonna get into the review here in just another second, but one more thing I want to get into, and might possibly be two things, is that I'm gonna peel back the curtain a little bit on my process. Normally, what I do is I watch the movie once, and then I'll watch it a second time. And then I'll either take notes the second time, or I'll watch it. I'll take half the notes the second time, and then finish it off, and then watch it a third time, and refine my first half into my second half of notes. Now, and a lot of times I will write out exactly what I'm thinking, like to the sentence as it's come out of my head. It's probably a shitty way to do this, but whatever. It's how I do, and I'll leave points to talk about that don't have specific talking points, but blah blah blah. But this particular time, I watched the movie once, and apparently I just did not catch any of the things that were awful about it, because it was so fucking lame and so awful, and it's actually a failing of my part. I want to apologize to the writer, who is, Anushka Chizdik.
Chizdik?
No. Anushka, I just don't know how to say words. Anushka Chidzik and Caprice Crane. So my apologies to you. I did not... And also the director, Dermot Mulroney, which is a great name for my next Call of Cthulhu role-playing game character, who I didn't pay enough attention to your movie the first time to see just how terrible it actually is, and how it might be on a list of mine, a very particular list. But we'll get to all that later. So when I did the review the first time, as I was writing down my notes and everything, I was kind of laissez-faire and blasé about the whole thing until I started to see all of the... I only watched this movie twice in this case. I've had very periods of on and off being intensely busy and not. But So this review gets darker and angrier as it goes on, which is not like normal. Usually I know what I'm walking into when I start to actually write the review. But I kind of discovered it along the way in the middle of it, so this is going to be an odd one compared to what you're used to with me.
Larry's descent into madness.
Descent into hate, more like, which, as you well know, Isaac, is
I feel like you've descended pretty far into hate already.
For me, descending into hate is a very common thing that happens all the time.
You're at the bottom of hate, looking up and screaming.
Well, in this particular case, I grabbed a shovel and dug a little bit deeper. Cracked that bedrock a couple more inches. This is not, for me, so much going to get into an angry, screaming, fat man rage like it has been in the past. It's more of a realization of what exactly the fuck we had here in this little fucking pile of shit. But anyway,
I'm intrigued.
So just the beginning of this is going to seem a lot tamer than the end, but that's why. It's because I didn't pay enough attention the first time. So yeah. So anyway, no more. We've wasted. Okay, let me correct that self. I've wasted enough of your time. Let's get right into it. So, Love, Wedding, Marriage. I'm in hell. So first thing I wrote is I'm in hell, and this is a story about the worst woman in the world. And as I wrote this review, I didn't realize that fact in the beginning. I didn't have my critical lens on the first time, really. But as you'll see as we go along, the protagonist of this movie is just downright shit. And she's so lopsidedly written that it's a wonder that Mandy Moore has not had this stricken from her record, her acting record. And I think that's a testament to just, again, how little known this movie is. Because it's bad. Oh boy, is it bad. And now, we've been over this in the past, and again, I'm trying to avoid The Notebook, but I hate romance movies. I don't think that's a secret to anyone who knows me, and to those of you who don't know me, you're going to learn I really hate romance movies. We've talked about this in the past, with like the comparison to porn. Unrealistic standards, all that kind of crap. Yeah, and people just eat it up and believe that's how it's supposed to be, and then they get real romance, which doesn't compare, and they're disappointed. Not, yeah. And let's even take any kind of moral high ground out of the picture right now. Now let's just put it on me. I just don't like them because I find them to be incredibly dull. On top of the fact that I think they're shit. I find them to be terribly boring, terribly predictable, and most of the time terribly written. I've seen very few that I've actually liked or thought were engaging because it's usually kind of one after the other. I've been to see a lot of romance movies with various ex-girlfriends. I saw one in theaters. What was it called? What's the one about the guy in the wheelchair? Me Before You. I didn't hate that. Even as far as romance movies go, I liked that one well enough. And there was one more that I saw. What was it called? Safe Haven. I didn't hate that either. That one was not as great because it's a little more predictable, but that one at least had an engaging story. So I don't despise them all. This is not just me saying, "Oh man, I hate the Transformers. The Transformers are terrible." No.
It's like horror movies. Yes. Most of them are really bad, but when they're good, they can be good.
Right.
There's just mountains of shit to wade through.
I think that there's a lot of really good points, and I think even in some bad ones, you could find kernels of good. If it's, good I can always appreciate good acting. Oftentimes, it's hard to get over the writing, because the basic writing plot of a romance movie is usually pretty lacking. Because it's a lot of, I find it hard to properly script love because of what it is in nature.
And love's not that interesting, usually,
it's really
to people who aren't in love.
No. I would say probably a lot of people who listen to this have been in love before or are in love now. And let's cut who I am out of it for a minute. Yeah, it's a very personal thing. It's hard to describe. Yeah. You can look at your friends, your neighbors, your parents, your families, and all that, and not understand. Because I see this all the time. A girl I dated in high school had an aunt and uncle who stayed together for, God, I forget how many years, many decades, and to the point where they despised each other, but they stayed together because there was some weird sort of. Anyway, I'm getting off track, but it's a hard thing to do in a very capitalistic way, if that makes sense. I think so anyway. I think it's hard to be really realistic. Like when you watch a movie, for me anyway, like any kind of relationship I see in a movie, it's with a grain of salt because it's for the sake of entertainment for a movie.
Yeah,
just like watching a superhero movie. Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. can't shoot laser blasts out of his chest. I'm watching a movie. Same thing. It's the same thing with a romance plot, and that's the problem when you make a whole movie about that. I'm already out. And if you have a differing opinion, by all means, let us know. I'd love to hear it. I really would. I'm not being sarcastic. This is just me because I just have trouble with that as a base concept. But as we'll see, putting that to the side and just looking at this as a critical movie, holy shit, is this bad? And is this written by people who might need fucking mental help? But let's get to it. Now I've eaten up even more of your time. So we start right off a little on-screen text crawl over soft marimba music, which is according to the subtitles. You can look up marimba on your own. I'm not going to bother to describe it. The text reads, "Once upon a time, a guy meets a girl, and like most men in love, he didn't know what to say." Fair? I can't speak to anybody, especially women. Why do you think I scream in a microphone? And I scream at movies on the internet with no shirt on because I'm so fucking happy. Pull your head out of your ass. We see our protagonist's boyfriend shooting a video of himself on shaky cam. His name is Charlie, and he is portrayed by Kellen Lutz, who I've been made aware plays Emmett Cullen in the Twilight movies. I don't know who that is. I saw 1.5 Twilight movies and read one of the books a very long time ago. And I can assure you from my memories that this is a bad sign right off the bat. To accentuate my point, he gives a good, healthy dose of terrible acting as he fumbles his way through recording himself doing a wedding proposal instead of telling her to her face like a regular person.
What?
I don't know if he's practicing or whatever, but it's weird. I don't like it. And get used to me saying it's weird and I don't like it. He calls her babe, which I had no problem with. But somehow coming out of this meathead who can't act out of his mouth, it seems misogynistic. He's calling her babe after he's wiping her blood off his knuckles after he backhanded her. That's fine. Call your significant other's babe. I have no problem with that. It's just this guy in a wedding proposal, it's really weird. I just got a weird vibe, okay? Yeah. Maybe he's a serial killer. I don't know. I'm not saying he's a serial killer, but I'm just saying check his basement. But anyway, so, yeah. He brings up the things that he loves about Ava, our protagonist. We'll get to her.
Ava?
Ava. A-V-A.
Ava Braun. Fucking goddamn. Okay. Ava's ruined. It's like Adolf. I don't know why Ava gets a pass.
Really? I've to be fair, I've never seen in any kind of media or met a person named Ava, so I guess you're right. I guess it might be.
Yeah, no one is named Adolf. I don't think anyone should be named Ava either.
Yeah.
But I guess she wasn't as forefront.
Ava Braun is that EVA?
I don't know.
Well, this is why we have the internet, because now I'm intensely curious. Yes. Okay, here we go.
That's a romantic comedy. Ava and Adolf.
I would bet you $1 million that exists, and if so, we need to watch it. Also, boy, she's not. The
story of their romance is very interesting, actually.
Really?
And they never got married, but were together for a long time, and it's fascinating. But anyway.
Weird. I'm sure that movie exists, and I'm sure if I can find it, I guarantee you'll be watching it, because, you and Nazis. Oh, by the way, I promised this episode I'd talk about Juggalos way back in like episode 1 or 2 or something. But no, it has to wait. There's too much going to do with this. Juggalo story is going to wait. But,
all right. We have bated breath.
Yeah, it's not that interesting a story. So husband Charlie is talking about the things he loves about Ava. He says she can't do anything without first consulting her horoscope, which is terrifying.
I hate her already.
Oh yeah. Terrifying considering that she is, as we will later learn, a licensed marriage counselor.
Ugh.
He also says she watches the same sad movie over and over again, hoping for a happy ending. I would think this is perfectly fine and possibly cute if I was not suspicious that Ava is quite possibly the stupidest person in movie history. But I'll certainly be getting to that later. And that's like a running joke in this movie, is her watching, it's Gone with the Wind. I started watching Gone with the Wind and expecting a different ending every time, and it's like this funny reoccurring joke that people bring up, and even though it's, it's never funny. It's just not funny. So he makes his little proposal video, and we just cut to the wedding. They cut out all the courting and everything, which is fine, because the movie's not about that. I would say it's more fine if this movie had any substance to the actual relationship between husband and wife. But that's about as Shallow Dennis, who's the shallowest scumbag at the Shallow Bar. So, that's a thing. The wedding. Ava's getting ready, played by Mandy Moore. We talked about her already. She is basically an actress made of straw. It was my final word on her. As she walks down the aisle, escorted by her on-again, off-again Jew father, I'll explain. It's a plot point.
Okay.
She gives this narration about how this is the happiest day of her life. I mean, it's not senior prom, so she's already wrong about that. Isaac, you get that? You see what I did there? You get my F the prom reference? Remember that? Episode 5?
You snuck that in.
Anyone? Remember how important the prom was to, what's her name? With the changing hairstyles? Yeah, I remember. I didn't forget. I remember all of it. It's all just in here in my head. All the hate and rage doesn't really go anywhere. It just kind of, it's like steam out of an iron. It goes out, but there's going to be more steam later. All right. By the way, her name was Maddie. I totally remember that name too. And it's your fault. But, so love, wedding, marriage, right? That's what we're talking about. So Ava's narration, she's so happy. It's that she's marrying the man of her dreams, and she's going to live happily ever after. I can assure you this is not correct. She says they fell in love on the very first date, which that is a word that's actually pronounced lust. If you fall, quote unquote, in love on the first date, you just want to fuck them. I firmly believe that, and you cannot change my mind. That is not
you can
how
be
love works.
Infatuated upon
Correct.
A first meeting, but it's certainly not love.
Yes, yeah. If you're feeling,
and you can be infatuated in a not particularly sexual way, also.
Okay, that's fair, but I feel like if you feel, it's wrong to say love. I feel like that is your body telling you subconsciously that you want to mate with them. I really believe that. I think humans are a lot less complex than we give ourselves credit for in that sense. But let me keep, let me just keep my personal life out of it, because clearly I'm going to die alone, and I've accepted this, but we'll try to keep that. Boy, this is going to be bad. Isaac, this review, man, I'm going to need to take up drinking. I have not had a drink in my entire life, and I'm going to need to start.
You must be so thirsty, Larry.
And that said, I'm about to take a long sip of coffee, which is the only love left.
I would say falling in love is a bad phrase. I would say crawling toward love is more accurate, but sounds weird, so that's why we don't use that.
That's fair. I think, and again, this is one of those things where I don't think it's... I'm being a bit dramatic. Of course, you can be infatuated. That's fine. I just think it's a bad phrase, and I don't like it. Because, again, like we talked about before, and let's not get into in take great detail again, it's just a bad standard. It sets a bad precedent for development and, like, relationship development. Because relationships are confusing, folks. If there's any younger folks listening, it's real hard sometimes, especially if you got brain problems. Anyway.
Which most people do.
Yep. If you don't, you're lying to yourself. I'm sorry. I'm getting real fighty already. It's getting real fucking hot in here. I'm sweating up a storm and I'm barely wearing any clothes. I'm probably gonna end up naked by the end of this. So there you go. There's that fucking mental image for you.
Are the blinds drawn, Larry?
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Okay.
I gotta tell you, when we're off air, I gotta tell you a story about my neighbor. Oh, Jesus. So anyway, Ava believes that lasting love is possible because of her parents. They were married for 30 years, and their lasting commitment made her both want to be a marriage counselor and made her ready to be married herself. So she loves her parents. Got it. Coming from a broken home and having the most out there father of all time, it's kind of hard to empathize with Ava here, but I'm going to push past that. Also, it's important to note that everybody in this movie is fabulously wealthy. Like, to the point where the only problems they have are the ones they create for themselves. Like, seriously. No one even stubs a toe. Like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they're on a different pyramid. They're on the rich person pyramid that we don't learn about in poor person school. Like, they don't have any problems. Like, seriously. The only problems they have to invent. Because they're just so wealthy. And it's not, like, she's a marriage counselor. I don't know what her fucking parents do. And her husband works at a goddamn winery. So, search me, man. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, what?
So Ava and Charlie are married. I'm going to call Charlie Chuck henceforth, because Chuck is a much funnier word. And Chuck's best friend, Gerber, is drunk at the wedding. Isaac, are you a fan of Psych? I don't remember.
Yes, very much so.
Do you remember the episodes with the lawyer? The lawyer is really bad at his job?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, anyway, that's who Gerber's played by, so if anybody else, the sane person like me and remembers, I have brain problems. This is the knowledge I've required is bullshit and useless. So anyway, this guy, the best friend, his name is Gerber, he's drunk at the wedding. He's a relatively unimportant character, but he occasionally has to sit in the driver's seat that is the jalopy of the plot and give it whatever gas he can in order to limp it across the finish line. So I need to mention him here because he does come up more later. We're given the impression he's a womanizer as he drunkenly declares himself to be a one-woman guy before immediately wandering after a hot lady in a tight dress who sashays by. Because, that's tee-hee-hee. It's so funny. That's comedy, right?
Yeah, he said one thing, but he did another. Oh man.
When I went to comedy school... which is a totally real thing. That was in comedy, not even 101. That was in the orientation.
That's in, like, if you want to make a parody of a comedy. That's some next level shit, man.
That was on the syllabus. So Ava and Chuck are dancing when Chuck asks if they want to get out of here. Ava says she's been saving some tricks for the honeymoon, and they leave in the traditional just married mobile to presumably have what I assume is hot wedding sex. Having had only regular hot non-wedding sex, I can't confirm or deny. And since I cut off your dick in that tragic watermelon incident a decade ago, I also know you have no honeymoon sex stories to talk about besides, like, mouth and hand stuff.
I'm very not a sentimental person.
Yeah.
So I had a wedding night, and it was normal. It wasn't, I was happy because I just got married, but it wasn't like the sex was different. I don't know.
Right.
I think people like to lie to themselves because, it's supposed to be the best sex you'll ever. It's stupid.
And these people, Ava is in a fantasy land. She lives in an utter fucking fantasy world at all times. We're gonna see. She is not even like she's not even fucking on planet Earth. She's so fucking out there, and I'm sure their sex life is awful. I say that out of disgust because I hate these people. But anyway. So, joking aside here, the plot of the movie is ultimately, like, the final solution to bring Ava Braun back into this. It's about Ava and Chuck's sex life.
What?
No, I don't actually hate that part of it, because they're, like, as we're gonna see, the plot is that their sex life is bad because of the stuff happening. Now, if it was just that, it might be, a 4 out of 10, at least passing grade romantic comedy. But they really go too hard in the other direction. Because, like, that's a fair... I think that is a fair topic. Because, the older you get, especially for men, sex gets harder. And it gets complicated. And when you're with the same person for a long time, it's an interesting topic that I feel like is more the butt of a joke than it ever is actually explored. Not that fucking a romance movie starring Mandy Moore is going to be a Harvard exploration of it, but it's kind of interesting. That kind of, to me, sets it apart a little bit, because if this was another type of movie, that would be like Robin Hood Men in Tights. One of the big plot points is that I know, I'm referencing that like it's fucking the pinnacle of filmmaking, but that's the first thing that popped into my head, was because she's got like the chastity belt, and eventually he finds the key, and they can, fuck and have sex at each other. But like that, and that was comedy. Like, this is sort of tries to take this real relationship, even though it's not real. It's fucking so ridiculously fake, even in the context of the movie, and kind of poke at a real problem, and so I don't hate it. And
and that's a story that should be told. It just, I'm sure it doesn't belong in this movie.
Right? No, this does not. It doesn't have anything to do with it here, and you'll see. In fact, it's really to the great detriment of everything in my life and the life of planet Earth existing. If the aliens come down, if you have this movie, fucking hide it. Put it under a doily so they cannot see it. We do not need the aliens to fucking get an idea of what humans are like off of this, please. But yeah, that's kind of what sets it apart more from the other romance movies I can think of. Because at least there's not really the courtship, because, a lot of the high-profile, big-name ones are about, like, the courtship and the mysteriousness, quote-unquote, and, like, all this sort of, like, the falling in love, again, quote-unquote, phase. Whereas this is more of like, oh, we did that, and now, we can't fuck because my Jew dad's in the next room. So at this point, I was kind of on board for that, because I thought, like, okay, you know what? I'm going to try and look at this objectively, as opposed to the other examples I've seen, and just see what we can do with that. It doesn't stay good. But, yeah, it's really bad at straddling that line, and it's just a slog. It's such a fucking slog that that's why I had so much trouble the first time around. That, like, realizing all the hidden bad stuff that I keep talking about not getting to, because my brain is just a tree, and I cannot just climb the trunk. I have to go on the branches. I'm sorry. Oh boy. Okay, now I've lost my place because I'm holding my head in my hands.
I'm glad you're suffering.
Yeah. I don't hate that it's about their sex life in concept. So just right. So we know about that. That's right. That's it's important. Yeah. Okay. Blah blah blah. I already talked about that. God damn it. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm so hot and embarrassed about the fucking dog, and I'm mad at this movie. And oh boy! All right, so
we're capturing the headspace this movie put you in.
Yeah,
it's authentic.
I had to sit on my couch after I watched it the second time and finish my notes, just kind of stare at the wall and be like, "Well, fucking A, I'm really mad." I really wanted to talk about it because of just how mad I am here. So, and as further note to my shame, we're at this point 4 minutes into this movie. Oh, boy. Oh, Jesus Christ. I have fucked this podcast. If you recall a decade ago when I talked about it, Ava and Chuck are leaving the wedding to have hot wedding sex. Obviously, we don't see it. It's not that kind of movie. We cut instead to a few weeks later where normal life is resumed. They're having normal, fun lives, blah, blah, blah. They make plans to have sex that evening, which is an important plot point for later. And just for clarity, it's in a very unsexy way, which is fine, but I just want to paint the picture in your head properly.
Are they putting it in their calendar or something?
Kind of, yeah. I don't need him to say something like, I'm gonna eat your ass like it's fish food or something sexy like that. I guess that's what sexy sounds like. I don't need that to get my rocks off. I just want you to have an understanding of what we're working with here. It's just like, he says like, oh, hey, instead of he makes like some cheesy sort of joke that's kind of like, how about you peel my oranges tonight, huh? Like along that line. And then she's like, yeah, it's really, and he doesn't he doesn't give it the sort of like I did. Like he just kind of says it. And she says, oh, okay, I could cancel my last appointment, be done at 6. He's like, oh, I'll leave the winery early, and we'll be home at 6 to have prompt 6 p.m. sex.
Yeah.
It seems very English.
Yeah, that's a little strange.
I mean,
you can schedule
I'm not
but
judging. It seems weird, especially because they're young and just got married, and maybe this is just me revealing the depths and breadth of my ignorance about life. So, I don't know. It just caught me off guard.
It seems off.
Yeah.
For sure.
So at work, we see Ava counseling a couple, as she is, again, a marriage counselor. And now, for clarity, she is Schrodinger's marriage counselor, as she is quite possibly the best or worst marriage counselor in existence, depending on who you show this movie to. The couple she's counseling is arguing because the husband is angry his wife spent a bunch of money, while she is angry because he cheated on her by sleeping with a slutty, trashy whore, her words. The wife does say the line here, why should I suffer because you're not rich like my father?
Wow.
So remember that slight praise I gave this movie a couple minutes ago for focusing on something as opposed to ridiculous romance schlock? Yep, out the window. It's written by a simpleton. Yep. Ava encourages them to make lists about positive qualities they love in each other and ships them out. In the lobby, Ava's younger sister Shelby is looking for a medical pad so she can steal drugs. Remember, these people are fabulously wealthy. No pity. As Ava is a psychologist and not a psychiatrist, she can't prescribe meds. Or as I wrote, describe meds, which I also think is true.
Yeah, you can't prescribe them because you can't describe them.
She certainly can't anyway. I don't think she can describe how to walk in a straight line. They talk about the surprise anniversary party they're hosting for their parents' 30th in a few weeks, when the parents themselves arrive, arguing. They have a little They have a little catty back and forth with a healthy dose of Jew. I'm not kidding. The father's Jewish.
Oh boy,
the
your wife, his wife abide.
Yeah, no, I swear to God, I think this is the scene where he says Meshuggah, which is the first word I say to make Jewish puns, which I'm definitely not proud of. So here's where we start to get to the really meaty, offensive parts of this movie. She pulls her parents into her office and begins to professionally counsel them as she would regular clients. Now,
that's not what you do.
Yep, I used to date a girl who just very recently got her psychology degree, and I asked her exactly what's wrong with this, and she told me, as I thought, conflict of interest. You cannot do that. You cannot counsel your relations. You cannot, as a doctor, fuck your patients. You cannot. It's like the first thing they teach you in doctoring school. First is wash your hands. Second is don't fuck your patients. And in this particular scenario of a psychologist, you don't counsel your parents. It's like fucking your patients. Because it's a conflict of interest because you cannot remain objective, which is important.
So, but she's allowed to fuck her parents.
I mean, yeah, if you want to. Maybe not legally, but, if they're rich, they can get away with it.
That's very true.
This point, her tying psychology, she trying to use psychology on her parents to get their marriage back together, is the other half of the plot besides the sex problems. Sex problems with Chuck, which is also the name of my next restaurant. So, yeah, and for anyone, I don't know if have you seen The Sopranos, Isaac?
No, I haven't.
For anyone who's seen The Sopranos, like, the main plot is Tony Soprano, who is this hardened gangster's relationship with his psychiatrist. And very early on into the show, this is not a spoiler because that show's old, also this is like episode 5, he admits to her that he falls in love with her immediately because he's a piece of shit. And she continues to counsel him. And that was, at that point, I could not take any of the rest of the show seriously because it's just so backwards because she's the worst. Which is a shame because it was really interesting up to that point. Until then, it got weirdly personal. But anyway, so yeah, kind of the same thing. Where she gets, because she can't remain objective, she gets way too wrapped up in this marriage thing. So her grievances are so offensive and even pointed out by the other characters, she just becomes utterly unlikable immediately. Like, I want her marriage to fail. I don't root for her as a protagonist. She has this side of human how do you say naivete? Is that correct? Is that
naivete? Naivete?
Shit. You're college educated, and I'm at least vaguely intelligent, and I'm really ashamed I don't know how to pronounce that.
That's one of those words I don't think most people know how to pronounce.
Bitch is pretty naive. It's so offensive. It's like this cloud that just poisons everything else about this movie because it just gets worse. It gets even worse as it goes along with like how grievous her offenses get to the point where it's like you cannot possibly root for her anymore. And everything else is so much like just a pile of poorly written cum dribbled out of the sad hole where Isaac's shorn off dick is. So, imagine that's what I had to watch twice. Also, Isaac, I hate you. Just wanted to, just in case you forgot, I hate you.
Thank you. That's good to hear.
I hate you so much. You fucking bitch. So, Ava talks to her parents. Her mom, Betty, says she wants a divorce. Ava asks them what's going on, and Betty says Ava's father cheated on her. I have completely forgotten the name of Ava's father at the time of this writing, but I know the actor is married to Barbra Streisand, so I'm going to call him Mr. Streisand henceforth.
Okay.
Weird fact. So Mr. Streisand protests that he didn't cheat, as he and Betty were separated at the time. It was 25 years ago. He doesn't think it's that big a deal. It is a very big deal, as we'll find out, but we don't know that yet, gentle audience. Ava asks why now, when they've been happy for so long, do they want to get divorced? Important note, Ava's entire existence revolves around her parents' happiness, if you'll recall. Literally. That's
healthy.
She is only wanted to get married because her parents are married, and she is a marriage counselor because her parents' marriage is so strong, quote unquote. Mr. Streisand insists they've been happy, but Betty disagrees. What? She says she wasted her life catering to him, and she wants to have quote unquote adventures, which is a word that I hate because I don't think anyone knows what it actually means. Maybe it doesn't have a meaning. Maybe I'm just a fat, long man. Ava tries some of her psychology on them, and Betty correctly tells her to shove it, as it's not her place as a professional. Betty is kind of the real hero in this entire movie until the end, where she predictably ruins it by, falling into the trap of bad writing.
And she's played by Betty White, correct?
Oh, God, I wish. This movie has a strange-ass fucking celebrity cameo, which we'll get to in a couple minutes. It fucking blew my dick off my body. Betty says
gotta remember that phrase.
Yeah. Betty says she's pissed it was all based on deceit, and she complains about how she's also pissed that Mr. Streisand never puts the toilet paper roll back on the dispenser, which is, of course, a plot point.
Wow. I being guilty of that and my wife not enjoying that, it is the smallest thing. At least I think. Maybe 25 years from now I'll find out it was the biggest thing, but it's kind of just a joke.
You're going to wake up with a shotgun to your head, and that's going to be why. I'm going to fucking laugh. She storms out saying Betty this is, storms out saying she will live with Shelby, who is the sister. Shelby protests, and Ava says they have bigger problems, namely the anniversary party. So, this anniversary party is most of the reason why Ava does what she does in the coming pages of this review. Please recall that it's their 30th anniversary. Recall again, they're the reason for Ava's whole existence because she's put all her eggs into that basket. So this party, to her, is what heroin is to someone who has not had heroin for the specific amount of time in which you need more heroin, which I think is always. So everything she does, besides being the overarching, my parents married, sure, but the party, Isaac, is what is important here. It's kind of like a prom. Do you think I brought that up for no fucking reason? She's so...
You just keep moving on to the next party.
She is so dogged about her parents' marriage. I probably pronounced that wrong. Dogged? Dogged. Is that right? Dogged?
I think
Fuck.
dogged.
I don't know how to pronounce words. I'm not intelligent. Fuck. She's so dogged about her parents' marriage because she puts her hope in these, like, false affirmations of achievement instead of real honest feeling. I assume it's because they're fabulously wealthy. I don't know. It doesn't... Oh, boy. I need a fucking cigarette. Ava's eating ice cream and generally being miserable about her parents at home. Chuck comes in, ready to fuck, as it is now the appointed fuck time. He gets all kissy and foreplay-y, but she's too preoccupied to get into it. He asks what she's going to do, because she tells him what happened, and she says words out of her fucking human mouth that she can't counsel them as their family. No fucking shit. And Chuck tells her, quote unquote, not quote unquote, quote, oh, just do it and don't tell them you're doing it. Because he's a giant, stupid, fucking meathead, grape stomping idiot. Sorry, go on.
That's the Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
That's what Cosby did. That's very unethical. I mean, more so with rape, but...
Yeah.
Still...
Chuck, at this point, to me, is the villain of this movie. And we'll find out he might be the hero. Oh, God damn it. Ava thinks this is a great idea and cancels the fuck date to go fix her parents' marriage. So Chuck and his sad boner finish the ice cream. Not the first time, not the last.
Wait, he finishes the ice cream or finishes in the ice cream?
You know what? They don't show it, but I'm going to let you think about it and let me know. You watched
What flavor of ice cream was it?
Oh, it's like Blue Bunny. It's some kind of like razzy flavor. Bunny. It's not like, good old reliable American strawberry or...
Oh, right. Rich people ice cream.
Yeah. I've never seen Blue Bunny ice cream, but I know it exists.
All right.
Ava goes to visit Betty, her mom, at Shelby, her sister's place. I keep saying their titles because they're fucking throwaway characters otherwise. There's a lot of back and forth here that isn't funny or helpful, but ultimately leads to nothing valuable. Basically, just restating the same stuff. But what's important here is that Ava suggests the warring couple goes to see a therapist, thankfully a different therapist. Betty reluctantly agrees because she wants to make her little 28-year-old angel happy because she can never say no to anything Ava says because that's what you do when you're rich, I guess. I don't know. Another scene of meaningless sister bickering and drivel. Ava asks Shelby, the sister, if she could reach Mr. Streisand as he hasn't picked up the phone. Shelby asks if he committed suicide, bringing up many reasonable reasons as to why he may have. But the reality...
Jesus.
As we'll find out, the reality is far, far worse because he has in fact gone full Jew.
I'm really curious what that means.
So Ava goes to Mr. Streisand's house where it's lined with candles and the electricity is out. She runs into a suspiciously British delivery boy. Now, at first, I thought that Mr. Streisand was fucking the suspiciously British delivery boy. Because the interactions they have... Because he, bumps into her, and she runs back and screams, "I know, Tybo!" Because that's comedy. That's how comedy's done.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, No, I'm just here to deliver the matzo ball soup. I'm not a burglar. I'm definitely not fucking your father in the arse. Because, Mr. Streisand runs in, he's like, No, he's just a delivery boy. And he and the dad have, this really meaningful, weird look, and, it really seems like he's fucking him.
That's bizarre. Do you think they were actively teasing it, or so oblivious that they didn't realize?
No, they're just oblivious. It might just be me, but, because it's pretty... As we'll see in, a couple minutes, it's pretty obvious what the fuck is actually happening here. And it's a whole thing. But the first time I watched it, I was legitimately given pause where, I thought to myself, if there was a movie where there was going to be a character who's actually gay, it'd be this kind of movie. So I thought it was a possibility that they might be going that direction. Maybe the marriage is falling apart because Mr. Streisand realizes he likes getting buggered in the ass more than he likes, vagina holes. going to be murdered one day, and I've accepted that, and I'm fine with it. I am at peace.
Oh, God.
So that weird shit out of the way. Ava asks Mr. Streisand why he's in the dark with candles. He mentions it's the Sabbath because Shomer fucking Shabbos. The divorce has made him go weirdly Jewish. Like, I'm not kidding. It's a plot point. If you've ever seen The Big Lebowski, which you should because it might possibly be the best movie ever written. And I say that as a person who has never once done a drug, and I fucking think it's the best thing in the world. To the point where there is a religion based on it, of which I am a licensed minister. So anyway, yeah. So Mr. Streisand is, he went full Jew because it's a thing that he does occasionally in his life. Apparently when bad things happen to him, he embraces his Jewish side.
And when things are better, just casts it aside again?
Yes, 100%. 100%.
That's how religion works.
Yeah, and it's just kind of this thing that happened. Well, not Isaac, that is 100% how religion works in America.
Well, yeah.
That is what people do.
That is true.
Do you know the most prayers happen in hospital bedsides, Isaac, not at a regular bed. When you're about to fuck your wife, you don't pray to God. It happens when something bad happens. Well, you don't pray to God because you're a reasonable human being, but let's not offend people any more than I already do every time I open my mouth.
Every once in a while, like if something's really serious, I'll just do this kind of, because I'm, I guess, technically an agnostic. I don't see any evidence for there being a God, but I don't know for sure. I mean, it's a possibility. Mm-hmm. And I'll just do this thing in my head where I'll be like, all right, God, if you're there, I know you're probably not, but if you're there, could you help me out? Just like on the off chance. It's like, all right, my family member's sick, so God, do something. I don't know, whatever. Thanks. I appreciate sunsets.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, I don't.
And I actually do that. I know it's really stupid, but it's like it's not going to hurt anything.
You're 100% right. It's not going to hurt anything.
And it makes me feel like I've done something too, which is why people actually pray.
Right.
I'll help. Don't worry about your cancer, Bob. I'll take care of it.
I got this. You give him like the wink, like the knowing look. Like I got it in with the guy upstairs. I think you might listen to me sometimes. Let me take a second here because I'm sure I'm going to be making fun of fucking religion a lot in the coming years. We're going to be doing this show. I don't have anything against people's faiths. I believe whatever you want to. You know what? I'll believe whatever I want to. I have no problem with that, and I would never malign that. I do have a lot of problems with organized religion, but mostly with the religion itself and the stored hypocrisy that comes with it. So I will poke fun at that often because I have a lot of personal issues with it based on my life and the people in it and the many different churches I've been dragged to. So I have some issues, but I try to at least frame them in a logical way. I don't, if you believe in God, if you believe in whatever religion you like, as long as you're not out to hurt anybody, you know what? As long as you're not out to convert anybody. If you're trying to convert people, fuck you. Seriously. I have an issue with that too. But other than that, whatever you want to believe in, that's awesome. I wish I had something like that in my life. I don't. I believe in nothing except myself, and I hate myself. So anyway, fucking Isaac. Oh man.
So Mr. Streisand has gone full Jew.
What is happening? I'm just. Oh man. We haven't.
I only guess Ava Braun is upset about this.
No. The Jew thing, it just kind of happens in the background.
So are they all Jewish, or did he just convert at some point?
No, he has always been Jewish, but like I was saying, he is Jewish when he wants to be Jewish. They were not raised, they may have been raised Jewish, I don't know. Eventually Shelby wants to go Jewish too, because Mr. Streisand is Jewish, and she decides because her character has no arc otherwise, except that she occasionally talks about Jewish stuff. So it's not really that funny, but it kind of just happens in the background. I don't really get it. So Ava gets Mr. Streisand to agree to therapy with Betty. So back at home, Ava reveals to Charlie that without his consent, Charlie's, she's told her dad to come live with them, and Mr. Streisand himself bustles in with his goldfish and his luggage. Chuck is, and I feel this is reasonable, upset that she didn't consult him.
Yeah.
Though I feel he unreasonably argues about it, considering refusing Mr. Streisand's presence in the house altogether. No, not how it works. I mean, she did a dick move, but you don't get to do a dick move back. That's not how relationships work. Don't be like that.
So yeah, you need to sustain that leverage for your next battle.
How's married life? How's your wife?
I haven't seen her for like 3 weeks.
You know, it's funny. I haven't talked to Kate in a while, and her texts all suspiciously sound like yours. Is there something I need to know?
No, she's doing well. Like the flesh hasn't come off her bones very much yet.
When you say doing well, is she in a well? Do I need to go to a well near you and find her?
It's because you can't Google wells. They don't come up on Google Maps. It was a very difficult time finding a well with her in the trunk.
Oh shit! And you know I'm not gonna go looking for a well in the fucking woods somewhere. Damn it. Anyway, fucking Christ. So they have some back and forth. Eventually, Chuck relents and allows Mr. Streisand to stay there. And Gerber shows up with he's the best friend of Chuck. He's got a brand new Polish wife. Like off the boat Polish, barely speaks English wife. He met her literally that day and they're already married. Ava thinks this is terribly romantic, as he says his marriage to his Polish wife is quote-unquote fate. We'll talk more about that later, but I may cut it off just for the sake of how much fucking of your time I've wasted. They've brought a wedding present, which is a karaoke machine in which he and then Polish wife overstay their welcome, performing karaoke late into the evening, eventually being joined by Mr. Streisand, who barges in. Is karaoke fun with like a group of just 5 friends? I've never done it.
I have never done karaoke at all.
Okay, well,
because I zero talent singing, so it's like my biggest social fear.
I love to sing,
naked
but
singing karaoke.
Yeah, I would pay good money to see you have to deal with your biggest social fear.
I would probably do it for money.
I would go into
debt
to be able to view that. So yeah. Anyway, I've never done either. I don't know. Anywho, the experience just leads to more grumbling from Chuck as Ava is pulled away from sex yet again by her father to perform more karaoke. He doesn't come in and like whip Chuck's dick out of her like they're in the living room talking about going upstairs to fuck it out since they couldn't the other day or earlier in the day, and now she's singing instead, and Chuck and his sad boner go upstairs and I don't know, do whatever rich people fuck when their wives are busy.
Honey baked ham.
Maids. Next day, Chuck invites Ava to the winery where he works and or owns, not sure. He gives her a present, which is a wine he got made especially for them. They will drink in XXX number of years. I don't remember and I don't care. Because like their marriage, it will only improve with age. Also, like their marriage, it was made by the sweaty, gross feet of a bunch of hairy Greeks, but that's neither here nor there. We also... I love the Greek people. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. We also get the brief interlude of Chuck's hot secretary, Adriana, who is a minor plot point later. In the next scene, Chuck is trying to fuck Ava, but she stops him as Mr. Streisand is in the next room. Well, in fact, he is not in the next room, but he is downstairs crookedly hanging religious effigies on the side of the house.
What? It's not his house.
Yeah, that's what Chuck says. He's also hanging... Chuck, is like earlier, was measuring where he wanted all his paintings to go. And apparently in the morning, Mr. Streisand has hung them all and they're all crooked. And this, Chuck is rightfully annoyed by the fact that there's a banging hammer early in the morning and, hanging false religious idols on the outside of the house that he owns. Which I would be, I'd be a little annoyed too. But Ava scolds Chuck for being annoyed, reprimanding him like he's a fucking child and not the man who had his dick rubbing against her 2 minutes ago, by telling him, "No, Chuck, it was nice of Dad to help, right?" Like, nudge, nudge, right?
Wow, that's manipulative.
I already hate this woman, and this is just the toe into the pool that is fucking Ava Braun. I hate her with all my fucking heart. And the man who gave her a degree should be drug into the street and fucking shot as a warning to other professors. So at the therapy for the parents, they both they both arrive and find that the therapist is, wait for it, fucking Christopher Lloyd.
Interesting.
You absolute fucking legend. I hope you're only doing this movie because you literally bet a bit part in a movie in a high-stakes poker game and lost. In honor of him, because he is amazing and has done no wrong to me, please don't tell me he's raped somebody. Please. I can't take any more.
I don't think there's been any headlines.
Every time I bring it up with an
wait
actor,
and see.
I always get told, oh no, they're a rapist. Please, Chris, don't do it. But anyway, I'm going to skip this whole scene because he truly does his best with what he's been given. The acting in this movie, shit. Utter shit. Like, Chuck he is basically just made, he's a nutcracker. He's made of wood. He's made of wood and his mouth flaps when you fucking touch his pee hole. He's terrible. But Christopher Lloyd always gives it his all. He's great. He is like a typical hippie therapist with off-the-wall ideas, like he's got Birkenstocks on. He makes them do exercises and shit, and is generally just a weirdo. And the only point of significance here is that Betty is pissed Mr. Streisand won't tell the girls about a mysterious Ian, who, again, I'm not kidding, I thought was his gay lover. Like, that's how weird the scene with the delivery boy was earlier. Contextually, doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out the mystery behind Ian, but we'll leave it for now. His ultimate solution, Christopher Lloyd, is for them to spend 100% time apart from each other as part of some psych technique, which I don't know is real or not, called Brush with Death, which is a fucking metal name for a technique like that.
That's a good point.
I love it. But we're supposed to get the idea that Christopher Lloyd is a quack, which, how dare you, sir? Oh, God, I'm dying. I'm dying a real death. This is so long and so hateful. So Chuck and Ava are at a restaurant waiting for Gerber and his Polish wife to arrive. They talk about love and whatnot, where she says the line, "I fall in love with you again every day," which is like a key point to their relationship. It's like the theme they hit upon a lot. Gerber and his wife show up, and they're both all cutesy. Then eventually Gerber, who being the stereotypical dopey best friend, like, "Oh, hey man, I'm all drunk and shit." He eventually lets slip that Chuck was married once before, drunkenly in Vegas, a long time ago. While Chuck tries to stop him in various different ways, like he kicks over the chair and spills wine on him and like knocks his plate over to try and get him to not say it. Because Chuck did not tell Ava that he was once married in Vegas. Now, Isaac, if you found out that your wife was married in New York City randomly, drunkenly for a night, you found that out now, don't you think that would be like, even if you weren't going to be furious, as we'll see, Ava's reaction is the fucking worst thing I've ever seen in my life, wouldn't you think you'd be a little upset that you didn't ever hear about it?
Yeah, I would.
Rightfully so, right?
Definitely be angry that that was not just disclosed and get it out of the way. I wouldn't be angry that it happened, but that it was kept from me.
You're a reasonable man. You're a very sweet person. I say this with not part of a joke. You are quite possibly one of the best people I've ever met, like easily. You're very mistaken. As far as a good person, you wholeheartedly. So yeah, of course you would be not mad that it happened, because it's a thing that happens to people. It seems crazy to me, but I don't drink, so I can't really put my head in that space. But
I got married last night.
Your marriage to Grey Goose is something your wife did know about. It's something I also knew about, but we lived together. You would be rightfully upset that you didn't tell about it, because it's just something you would tell someone you're married to. So, yeah. So Chuck is kind of a piece of fucking shit, and she's legitimately pissed off about it. And back at home in bed, Chuck tries to explain himself to the very angry Ava, rightfully so. They argue and nothing gets resolved, because that's just the theme of this. She notes that Chuck has not replaced the toilet paper. Oh my God, just like Mr. Streisand. Oh no. So next morning, she's still spiteful. She says to Chuck that, and I quote, "It hurts knowing I'm not the only girl you ever wanted to marry. It spoils the fairy tale."
Oh, that's revolting.
I had to pause the movie and lay on the ground and pet my dog for a little bit, because that one fucking hurt. That one fucking hurt.
Did the dog look in your eyes and say, "You haven't ever pet another dog before, right? Because that would spoil the fantasy."
Hey, he was a racing dog. He had a whole life before he met me. I don't ask him about it. Yeah, I talked to my dog. My Amazon Echoes multiple, and my coffee, because they're my only real loves anymore. But anyway,
combined, that's basically a person, right?
It's all the things I like about people. Slap a pair of titties on that thing and I got a wife. Oh boy, I'm sorry. That was a bad joke. I'm not a misogynist. I'm just a bad human. I'm a bad monkey. But yeah, that fucking line. It's one of those things in the I'm a groaner in a theater. If something's really bad, I will groan loudly so everyone knows that I hate it because I'm that kind of a shithead. So yeah, I realize that I'm a shithead for that, but that's a fucking groaner of a line.
That one definitely deserves it.
Yeah. It's now, I noticed too, that Chuck's hair is bleached blonde, and it looks wretched. He's a real shit, but he's somehow growing more and more likable than his terrible wife. But, like, the blonde, it's so bad. It's so glaringly obvious, and, like, it's not talked about. Like, it's such a bad dye job, it looks like it should be a plot point. Like, someone should ask him who his fucking barber was.
In high school, I wanted to do frosted tips, but I was too lazy to do it. So, my laziness is, like, the biggest source of why my life is terrible, but every once in a while it has saved me.
You had an afro in high school.
Well, yeah.
I want to see an afro with frosted tips.
No, it would have been cut short for the frosted tips. I would get a haircut like every 6 to 9 months.
Oh my god, that's incredible. Yeah, no, you dodged the bullet on that one, Guy Fieri Jr. Oh boy. Okay, so yeah, he asks how he can make it up to Ava, and she tells him to help her with her parents' marriage because blackmail. That's how a good 4-week-long marriage is. The foundations that really help a marriage is blackmailing each other. So Ava tosses aside the whole brush with death thing right away, which completely invalidates Christopher Lloyd's entire presence in this movie because she's a fucking villain. Now she's become the villain. By cutting out Christopher Lloyd, she's become my villain. She takes her parents and Chuck to a different type of marriage counseling. It's like a gym. It's like being at a gym where, like, the marriage counselor is a large woman with a megaphone who's yelling at them to do marriagey stuff. And the long and short of it is that Ava and Chuck's marriage might not be as great as we think. They might not know each other as well as they think they do because their answers, when they have to give answers about their feelings, they're a lot more different than they thought. Oh. So their marriage, maybe not doing so hot. Just like and also it fails completely for the parents' marriage. Everybody sucks. Everyone sucks. And also Ava really just displays herself as a piece of shit here too, because she, like, just dismisses everything that's not her own idea. Even though she's the one who's forcing all these things to happen. So at the end of this, there's a rock climbing exercise where her parents end up in, like, literally no danger. Her mom is floating off the ground, like, 8 inches. And she but she starts screaming because she's like a 50-year-old woman, and I guess she's not used to that. And so Ava runs over to help her and lets go of the rope that Chuck is on, so he falls about 20 feet to his, unfortunately not death, but that probably would have been better than what actually happens. So he falls and gets hurt, and he's pissed off about this because he got hurt not only emotionally, but now physically, and I guess he's also been hurt bonally because she keeps being so preoccupied she can't fuck him. So, and he brings up the point that, hey, Ava, you're so preoccupied with your parents' marriage that ours is now suffering. Because everyone in this movie keeps telling Ava what a pile of shit she is, and she doesn't listen to them. So, Ava and Shelby are preparing the anniversary party, regardless of the pending divorce that's still happening. In fact, Betty comes up to them on the street, Betty, their mother, and says, hey kids, I'm going to Asia for 6 months and I'm leaving in a week. So, like a reasonable person, Ava thinks that's okay. I can still fix this. The party's still go on. I'm the best wedding counselor in the world. They're going to be back together and everything's going to be fine. Like, she says that line. Like, they're going to be back together and everything's going to be fine. Like, she's a child. She's wow. Just so disillusioned. She doesn't believe it's real. Like, she's doing the rich person version of stomping her feet and, like, flailing her fists and throwing a tantrum. It's pathetic. It doesn't... It's really... It makes it all worse that she... Because, my parents got divorced. Fuck with my life. Because I was at a weird age, and my parents are weird fucking people. And, but it's really just... what's the word? It's highlighted by the fact that she's a marriage counselor. She supposedly went to school. She is basically my age. She's got a year on me. And she's like an idiot. She has a degree and she's a complete idiot.
Yeah.
She's not accepting the fact that this divorce is happening and insists on still just throwing herself into fixing it like she can fix it. And yeah, I get the point. That's the plot of the movie, that she's going to eventually see the error of her ways, and it's, everything's going to work out in the end, because romance always work out in the fucking end. But it's really like her level of being so childish about it is really glaring and really grating. It's like listening. You ever see the Babadook? It's like the kid screaming in that. It's like a little child just constantly screaming, I won my dinosaur! I'm my dinosaur!
I am so sympathetic to the mother in that movie.
Oh my god, I've never wanted to watch...
just kill the little fuck.
I've never wanted to watch a child die more than seeing the Babadook.
And I was that child.
Are you serious? No way, I don't believe it.
I was a screamer.
I don't believe that for a second, Isaac.
Just because I don't scream with you doesn't mean I didn't scream as a child.
Yeah, why do you think our sex life's terrible? Next, we see Ava. She's in her own therapy now, so she's being treated. And for some weird reason, we don't actually ever see her therapist. Excuse me. Every shot is a...
Oh, she's talking to a mirror, isn't she?
No. I thought that too. But no, someone is giving her responses.
So you hear the voice, you just don't see them?
Talking to a mirror would be a better written movie. Yeah, no. Every shot is a super close-up on Ava's face. Now, my theory is that the actress they got to play Ava's therapist saw the final cut of this movie and threatened to sue everyone until they cut her out. I'm not kidding. Find the scene and watch it. Because, every shot is uncomfortably close up to her face. Remember when we filmed Goons, Isaac? And I had the shot, which is, for those of you who care, we filmed a YouTube video of us doing a 30-minute sketch. And there was the one shot where my ass crack was hanging out because I was 320 pounds and I didn't know how to fucking dress myself. And the only difference now is that I'm a lot less weight like that and I still don't know how to dress myself. And my ass crack was hanging out and I asked you to cut it and it looks very obvious where you fucking zoomed in and cut. It's like that. So there was another part of this scene. We never see the therapist again. She's never in another scene. But it's really strange because I thought that too. Is Ava talking to herself even though there's a different voice? Is this going to be is her psyche going to be the next character we get introduced? But no. So, that's weird. The important part here is that Ava's therapist is like a normal therapist and tells her, hey, you fucking idiot, stop trying to intercede in other people's lives, especially fully grown adults who are fully capable of making their own decisions, you fucking cunt. I don't like saying that word, but when it applies, and it fucking applies to this character. It seems fair. It's not her place. And which Ava brushes that all aside because she's like, nah, no, seriously, what do I do?
Oh,
and
God, hate her.
She says it just like that. The therapist also asks her, how has this impacted your relationship with Chuck? To which Ava says, I shit you not. Who?
What?
She's a villain. She's a villain.
Ugh.
She's a villain of this movie.
She's Jafar.
She's the villain of fucking planet Earth. The therapist encourages Ava to let go and let the parents get divorced if that's what they want to do, to which Ava laughs, and it's a super close-up shot and fucking creepy as hell. I really at this point started to hate Ava with a fiery passion, and it only gets fucking worse. Remember, this was, at this point, usually when I'm writing these reviews, I know what I'm getting into, but I didn't realize how badly I hated Ava. I was just this movie's so bad. At this point, when I was really looking for details, it started to come out with how awful she was. So back at the ranch, Ava and Chuck are gonna fuck on the dryer, all hot which, note to self, have sex on the dryer. When Mr. Streisand walks in on them, oblivious to the fucking he just interrupted. And as Mr. Streisand is the one who hooked up the dryer, Ava thanks him. He says, no problem, I know Chuck is busy. Chuck says I'd have gotten to it eventually, to which Ava says, oh, like the shelves in our bedroom? And I swear to fucking God, you could see the point where the light of life just leave Chuck's eyes. He fucking dies on screen. If you look close at his robe, you could see his dick literally retract into his body as any passion he had for his piece of shit bitch of a wife evaporates. I thought Chuck was the villain of this movie. As I can see, he's the tragic hero of this movie.
Aw, poor Chuck.
So Ava tells Mr. Streisand that Betty is leaving for Asia, and Mr. Streisand despairs. Ava makes Chuck take Mr. Streisand out for drinks to try and cheer him up, because she's therapist of the century. Let's add alcohol to the mix. She says again that Chuck owes her because Ava is, and I quote, wife number 2. And when that whole thing came out, I was on her side. Because, yeah, it makes sense to be mad about that. I grant that to you. But she leads him around like such a fucking mule. She just treats Chuck like her personal bitch. And it just really, wow. any sort of justification is just gone at this point. Fuck that. So, at the bar, Chuck Gerber and Mr. Streisand are getting good and sloshed at a strip club. 2 things to note here. The line, I didn't know they were Irish Jews, which I thought was clever. And old-ass Mr. Streisand doing a body shot, which I thought was horrifying.
Yeah.
Gerber convinces Mr. Streisand that he can marry a hot Eastern European girl and forget about his old fuddy-duddy wife. And meanwhile, Ava is trying to convince Betty that Betty is happy, despite her patiently and continuously telling Ava, no, I'm not happy, and, you can't tell me I was happy just because you want me to be. Because, again, Betty is fucking a boss. She's a badass. She's doing what she wants, and I totally appreciate her.
Badass Betty.
Ava, of course, won't hear it, because she's a bitch. Eventually, drunken Chuck and Mr. Streisand arrive, and we get drunken annex. Mr. Streisand accidentally kills his fish. He talks about what Gerber said about hot Slavic girls on his Johnson, which is a direct quote, not my humor. Ava, of course, is pissed off that Chuck did exactly what she said he had to do in order to fit his little model of her life that he wants her to have. Oh, boy. She pulls him aside and starts yelling at him for doing what she told him to do. Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! That's all I'd be saying to her. Is fuck you! And I throw up on her because I assume that's what drunk people do. Chuck brings up... because she's mad because how could Betty possibly fall back in love with Mr. Streisand when he's a drunken idiot talking about his Johnson? Fair point. Should have probably come up with that plan, you stupid bitch. So Chuck brings up how crappy their sex life is while Gerber is having great, hot, married sex with his new Polish wife. Anyway, so the divorce now is pretty much guaranteed, as Betty is so disgusted by her drunken lad of a husband, she storms off. Ava now tells Chuck she fully blames him because she's a horrid cunt. He tells her, even drunk, he realizes this, mind you, that they should stop focusing on her parents and start focusing on them because their marriage is falling to pieces. She says she doesn't even know what he's talking about. He says it's been hard to have sex with her dad there, which is accurate. And she says she's surprised he even noticed, as Chuck has been so busy texting his hot secretary, Adriana. That was one fucking scene. I didn't even write it down because I didn't think it was important. So out of nowhere, she pulls this fucking thing about how he's cheating on her now. This poor dude is just trying to be a good guy. And, oh, man. Oh, God, it just gets worse, Isaac. It just gets worse. And I'm so fucking hot in this room. I'm drinking coffee, which is making it worse. Now I'm yelling, and I'm sad, and I hate...
You should have made it an iced coffee, Larry. You dropped the ball on that one.
Oh, God. All right. Oh, man. This one, I was really looking forward to this episode, because I need to get this out. I need to flush this one down the drain. Because this is...
It's like being constipated and taking the X-Lax.
This is... She has no basis to accuse Chuck of this. None. Zero. And she refuses to have sex with him now. Bitching about the toilet paper rolls again, because that's the fucking barometer of happiness of marriage in this movie. Like, that is what it... Fuck it. She tells Chuck she didn't fall in love with him again today, which is important because that is the actual barometer by which they measure their happiness with. So Chuck, whose side I am now fully on, besides being a bleach blonde fucking gross shit, next morning makes her breakfast in bed and asks for a truce, as he's the only one in the fucking house trying to at least be a decent human being. Ava, of course, is still upset about her parents. She says she has to cancel the surprise party, and Chuck makes her promise. He makes her say the words that she won't interfere in her parents' marriage anymore, which she agrees to, though she says it makes her feel like a failure. At work, an earlier pair of her clients from the beginning of the movie revealed that they're now happy because her therapy encouraged them to get divorced. Because apparently Ava herself is the fucking brush of death who destroys all love. But that's a good thing, because everyone in the movie, save Gerber, seems much happier, not in a relationship. And that's not me being cute. Literally everyone in this movie who's not Gerber or Polish wife needs to be apart in the worst fucking way, because they're all terrible for each other. This is a schlocky, shitty romance movie, and so it's going to get the happy ending, but, whatever. So Ava tries to save the marriage of her now happy patients who are getting divorced. Despite their happiness, she tries to keep the marriage alive, because to her, it's just like her parents' marriage. Oh no. They literally tell her the plot, which is, we're so much happier now that we're getting a divorce. We're glad we didn't stay in this toxic marriage. But, of course, being the bitch that she is, she's upset about that. And so they leave, and they're getting dates, and they're happier, because they're friends now that they're not in a shitty marriage. And she reluctantly admits to Shelby that she has to cancel the surprise party. Do you believe me that Ava's the villain?
Yeah, okay. I'm convinced.
Okay. Well, let me further convince you, because I don't think you believe me enough. She goes home to talk to Mr. Streisand, convincing him to fucking relax and try and de-stress by taking some of Chuck's sleeping pills. She gives him a safe amount, just enough to knock him out, and he goes out like a light. Seeing him passed out, she has an idea. So, her idea is that she takes the sleeping pills, she pours them in the toilet, she flushes the toilet.
Oh, God.
She calls 911 and tells them, my father tried to commit suicide by taking a bottle full of sleeping pills. Do you know why she does this? Because she can't bear the thought that the party won't happen. Because she gets this idea when she's looking at the guest list of the party, and then she looks at the bottle of pills, and then she just has this little idea in her head that if I make it look like my father committed suicide, then everything's going to be all better.
Meanwhile, he's, gonna get to the hospital and get his stomach pumped, which is not good for you if you don't need it pumped.
Oh, we're gonna get to it. So while this is happening with Mr. Streisand and Ava, we cut to Shelby and Betty at a speed dating event. Doesn't go anywhere. All we see is that Betty is having a bunch of bad dates with older guys who are all losers or weirdos. Which is gonna service the plot. She gets the call about Mr. Streisand and hurries off to the hospital in a panic. Excuse me, sorry. Because even though they're getting divorced, if you live with someone for 30 years finding out they tried to kill themselves, it's a pretty sobering thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't you think you'd be a little upset if you found out that was fake?
Wait, she wasn't actually upset?
No, the suicide attempt. A lot of things are going to happen here, and at this point, I'm so tapped out on Ava, I'm going to bang through them at top speed. At the hospital, a doctor tells Chuck and Ava that Mr. Streisand has only very small traces of sleeping pill in him. Chuck calls Ava out because she said he took the whole bottle. She admits to her wrongdoing because she's the worst liar. Seriously, she could have very easily talked her way out of it, but she didn't.
Seriously?
Yeah, because she's terrible. And Chuck rightfully says, you're a fucking lunatic. Also, you lied to me and broke the promise you made 6 hours ago. And he fucks off like a sane human should. He just leaves. He's like, I can't deal with you. You're crazy. And while
Chuck.
he's leaving, she is like saying to him, I don't understand why you're leaving. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just trying to help my parents. You fucking idiot.
Jesus Christ.
She is such a fucking piece of shit. Like, she's not cute.
Wow.
She's not funny. She's a fucking, active. I wouldn't be as angry if she wasn't someone whose job it is to do the opposite of what she's doing. She's a therapist. That is a fucking important job. And she is just the opposite of everything she should. It's so infuriating that it drives me insane. And here's how I really lose my shit. So Betty goes in to see Mr. Streisand. He wakes up and they talk a little bit. And Mr. Streisand professes all the things he will do to make her happy. And eventually Betty realizes, hey, forget all the other shit about personal growth and all that. I guess I should just stay with you And I suppose you might have grown in the week where you consistently proved you hadn't grown. And they're back together because Ava gets to win. She wins. She fucking evil wins in this movie. The bad guy blows up the fucking building.
Whoa.
She manipulates her way into getting what she wants, and her parents' shitty, terrible, needing to be over with marriage is quote-unquote saved.
But the mom doesn't find out that Ava is responsible for the fake overdose.
Nope.
Wow.
Ava wins. She wins. Ava is going to get everything she wants.
Holy shit. Spoiled princess movie. God damn.
What a fucking piece of shit movie. What a pile of utter fucking filth. What a lie. It's a lie built on more lies. It's just the manipulative worst portrayal of love and complacency I've seen in any of these fucking romance movies ever.
Yeah.
Forget The Notebook. The Notebook is a fucking 8 out of 10 movie compared to this. And I think The Notebook's trash. This fucking, it's so disgusting. And you know what? Yeah, again, I know I do this every episode. Yeah, I'm taking it seriously. No. This is fucking real shit. Okay? This is a fucking bad person who manipulates events into her favor and wins by fucking just toying with the lives of everyone around her. Literally everyone. So I hope that in real fucking life, her parents' marriage would fall apart in a week again. And I hope that, you would hope that would be what happened. So this is now, and for me, is so far away from real fucking life that it cannot possibly be reality. Because this evil slut, not slut, that's wrong. You know, I don't even want to swear about her anymore. Because she doesn't deserve it. Because she is slime. This character is fucking gross slime. Me calling her a piece of shit is just not demeaning enough. Because that's just surface level. I checked out at this point emotionally. Like, I was so pissed off, the dog got, like, anxious about it. Because I was, like, muttering and yelling, and I'd get up and, like, walk around, and, like, he was getting upset. He was, like, restlessly pacing in a way he does not normally do. God damn it.
I'm legitimately surprised that she wins. Like, everything...
you shouldn't have been.
But everything the trajectory is going to is it just seemed like, they break up, but she repairs her relationship with Chuck, and she learns a lesson.
That'd have been a better movie. That'd have been a better movie. That's what...
It seemed like that. I would have... I famously made a very stupid bet with you moments before something happened in House of Cards that in retrospect was very, very obvious.
Yeah.
And I lost $100 because I'm a moron. I would have bet you 5 minutes ago $100 that's how this movie ended.
Yeah.
I was so convinced.
Like,
how could you do this ending?
Oh, it was not the ending, but yeah, no, I mean, that's the ending of that storyline. Yeah, that their storyline's done. They're happy forever now. But it's... Let's talk about for a second the movie I mentioned at the beginning. It's called Me Before You. I'm going to go on a limb and say you've never seen it, Isaac?
I'm sorry, you cut out for a sec.
I want to talk about a movie called Me Before You. I assume you've never seen it?
You cut out again right at the title.
Are you serious? Fucking A.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a movie called Me Before You?
No.
Okay. Well, that is... I want to... Minor spoiler note. If anyone who's listening cares about the spoiler details of a romance movie called Me Before You, which I hope is the one I'm thinking of, cut ahead now like 2 minutes. But that's why the reason that's one of the romance movies I liked is because it flips the script on you. The basic plot... Do you care if I spoil it to you? Well, I don't give a shit because fuck you.
No.
Well, good. I wish you did care because I want you to hurt. The basic plot of the movie is this girl, I forget her details. She's like a small town girl who falls in love with a guy who's suffering from a disease in a wheelchair. He was like a skier or some shit, and he has lost all the use of most of his body, like kind of Stephen Hawking, but he can still talk because listening to Stephen Hawking talk his way through a romance movie would not be really something you want to hear. But eventually the plot is revealed that he wants to kill himself because he was like super active, like assisted suicide. And he was like super active and super into life and like had a thirst for life. And now he feels like his life is over. And, you know, he meets this girl and falls in love and like everything's kind of changed for him. And the trajectory is kind of going that, okay, well, he's going to turn around and they're going to have this life together. And you know what? He does. He kills himself. He still goes through with it. Like, he tells her, like, look, I love you, and this has been amazing, and this experience is great, but, like, I don't feel like the same person. And that caught me really off guard. And one of the things I have a little bit of pride in is that I'm pretty good at seeing movie twists and, like, predicting things before they happen in media. I mean, like, I'm pretty damn good at it. And I don't give myself credit for a lot of things, but I do give myself credit for that. So
he is very correct.
So
audience, it's scary how good he is.
And like that caught me really off guard. Like, I was really surprised, and I liked that, not because I revel in death or her sorrow or anything, but just like it could have very easily been a cookie cutter sort of thing where, he gives up all that and he finds his way in his life and everything. And do I agree? Taking out any of the context of suicide or anything like that, whether or not we agree or not with him, just like, I thought it just, as a movie, I was pleasantly surprised they went in a direction that was not so predictable and not so...
Yeah, it's a better story,
right,
for sure.
Right, it made for a good story. So, had this done that sort of thing, where, when the 2 minutes into this movie, I could know what the ending was, because every romance movie has the same fucking ending, pretty much. And had they turned it around on me, I'd have thought, okay, yeah, this character's a piece of shit, the acting's bad, the writing's poor, but you know what? They did what I didn't expect, and they gave me a curveball, and it wasn't a 100% happy ending. What makes it worse that it's such a happy ending in this fucking movie is how villainous and awful and evil and slimy the main character is. While, because she's the protagonist of a romance movie, she's still supposed to be, like, looked upon... You're supposed to put yourself in her shoes. That's what romance movies do. Because, sexism aside, many romance movies are aimed at young women. And that is what you're supposed to do, is put yourself in her shoes. And it's really fucking distressing to me how terrible she is. So...
Yeah.
Right. And
people are going to watch this, and honestly, in their real lives, take way too much effort to try to stop other people from breaking up.
Yeah.
Because it worked in the movies.
Right.
And sometimes maybe it's worth it to try to save a relationship. You can fight for a certain amount of time.
Sure.
But at a certain point, you need to see the writing on the wall, and the people around you need to as well.
Right. And let's use us as an example, just because it's convenience. If your marriage was on the rocks and you came to talk to me about it, and I love you, Isaac, you're like my brother, I would not fake a suicide attempt to fix your marriage. I would talk to you and your wife about it, and I would give you whatever advice I could, and of course I would want it to work, but it's not...
Well, because like you said, it's not fixing the marriage,
No.
it's a Band-Aid, it's not solving any of the fundamental problems.
Right, and it's also not anyone's place to get involved in a marriage. It's not the place of your family, your friends, your children, mom and dad, hint, hint. But it's just fucking... Had to twist that knife in there, because my life. But, that's not your place to involve yourself. And the fact that she does over and over while everyone tells her no, and her code of ethics specifically forbids her as a profession. It's a profession that has things you are forbidden to do. There's not a lot of professions, other than, like, baseline laws of don't kill people, don't rape, don't murder, don't steal. There's not a lot of professions where have strict forbiddances. She is in one, and it's a movie that celebrates her doing it and gives her everything she wants for doing it. And it's so fucking disgusting. It's literally disgusting. Like, it makes me sick to my stomach to think about, like, just because it's such a... I know it's a movie and it doesn't matter, but it's written in a way that just... it's so agonizing to watch. And it just gets worse because she's so awful. We're not done. The movie's not over. Because that's only half the problem. Because her relationship with Chuck is now fucked beyond repair. So, God, how long are we into this review? Great, an hour and 40 minutes.
Hour 40.
Fucking Jesus Christ. The running time of this movie is an hour and 30 minutes. So I've now talked about it more than a week.
You've beaten it already.
Yeah. So the truth comes out about Ian. Ian is the suspiciously British delivery room service boy from earlier who I thought that Mr. Streisand was fucking. He is the product of the affair from 20 years ago, being the illegitimate child. So, right, not hard to figure out, but it's framed in a weird enough way that I thought Mr. Streisand might be fucking him, but it's his son. That I figured that out halfway through.
They could still be fucking.
Right. They could be. Oh, that would be fucking hot.
Especially British guys.
He's, you know what?
I'd suck a British guy's dick.
You know what? I am firmly a very straight man, but I'll tell you what. I have lists. He's a good dude, man. He's an alright looking dude, and he's got a fucking sexy British voice. So yeah, excuse me. He sought out Mr. Streisand after his mom died, being the catalyst that set the whole movie off, pretty much. Because he found Mr. Streisand, and then the wife, Betty, is like, well, what the fuck is this? What's this British kid? Blah, blah, blah. So the family's all happy now, yay. Except Chuck and Ava are pretty much on the divorce path themselves now. We get the scene that's in every fucking one of these movies, where we get the sad music while they're in separate places, looking off contemplatingly into the distance and at items of significance. Like, she looks at the wine, and he's, like, looking at his wedding ring, because every fucking romance movie has that, and that's why they're all trash. It's not clever. You're just doing a trope. It's just a trope. It's beating a dead horse. The horse is dead. So Ava goes to the winery and tries to convince Chuck to come with to the anniversary party and to come home because he's been staying with Gerber. He says no, he doesn't want anything to do with her right now. She says she knows he's angry, but, and I quote, "You didn't tell me about your whole Vegas wedding and I still forgave you. And because of that, he has to forgive her."
That's how that works.
She fucking promised not to bring that up ever again. She is an awful, awful woman. I want to call her a cunt again, but that is an angry word. And what she actually is truly awful, self-absorbed, petty, borderline sociopathic, selfish, bad person. Calling her nasty names would cheapen it otherwise.
I can get behind that theory. And I agree wholeheartedly with you, too, about your assessment.
And it gets worse. It gets worse.
How?
She insists.
I don't believe you.
She insists it's not her fault that everything went wrong. As she simply had to step into her parents' marriage because, well, she had to. And she accuses him yet again of cheating on her.
Oh, God.
Folks, I know this is kind of silly, and it's funny to listen to me get mad at movies and yell about Leo the Lion or Steven Seagal or the Wayans brothers. And yeah, if you peel back this curtain, as I like to do, obviously I'm using the tiniest of tweezers to pull stuff out of these movies for the sake of comedy, so we have a show here. But I swear to you on the things that I hold dear, which would not be what you hold dear, so save it. This character in this movie made me legitimately, unashamedly angry. Like, I'm clenching my fist to the point where I'm, like, it hurts that I'm so fired up about it. I was mad about the Leo the Lion thing with the Heart of the Jungle and the Pool of Milk because that was a plot point that was so ass backwards it broke the entire movie. I was mad about Steven Seagal, whether or not he was real or not. I was mad about everything else, but this is, like, righteous fury.
It reminds me of Perfect Sisters, because I had that feeling with that movie, because it was just so morally repugnant.
Like that, yeah, that was like celebrating murderers.
Yep, and whitewashing their crimes in a lot of ways, but yeah, but every other movie I've done, I've been angry about or thought was dumb in a lot of ways, but. I had no moral problems with them. Yeah,
like everything I had before was like brief, intense rage that was just based on bad writing because I'm a hack who thinks he's better than people. But I could go on about what I find wrong with this and how the portrayal of her getting everything she wants when she's an awful piece of human garbage disgusts me to the point of real rage. I could go on about that for way longer than you'd ever want to hear. I know there's serial killers out there in real life who do things like rape babies and war criminals who kill hundreds of people and all kinds of way worse things in life. And yeah, that stuff makes me angry. And that stuff, it's a radar in my head. And sure, it's just a silly movie, Larry. Why are you so upset? Because this is what is impactful on people's minds. And I've seen evidence of it in my life, and it just pisses me off. Like, the minds of young people are so easy to manipulate. I've done it. You've done it. Everyone does it. It's really, really easy to tell fucking young people what to think. You and I were in charge of a restaurant for a long time, Isaac, and if we did that kind of shit, usually for comedy, never to program somebody into being awful. But, like, it just these, like, irresponsible fucking people out there writing these movies designed to make you put into the shoes of these characters who then just act in the most self-serving, selfish fucking ways and get what they want. It makes me so fucking angry. This woman spends relationships like they're chips on a pile. She uses her family like pawns in her fucking head games just to serve her own ends. You don't do that as a human being. Like, humans are developed from monkeys. We're all social creatures. You're not supposed to treat people like that. It's fucked up.
She sounds like a sociopath.
You do not get rewarded for that kind of shit. It's not romance. It's not love. And despite evidence to the contrary, I do know what those things are. This is the lowest of quote-unquote high drama experienced by people who are so disconnected with reality, they don't know where the stage ends and life begins. And it's fucking awful.
Yeah, there is a moral responsibility for people who create art, especially storytellers. And the line can get blurred, because I've seen a lot of people have gotten angry at the writers of Finding Nemo, because I think it's a clownfish, whatever type of fish Nemo is. A bunch of unprepared people went out and bought those type of fish for their kids,
right.
But it's a saltwater fish, it's hard to take care of, so a bunch of them died, and that's not cool. So a lot of people want to blame the writers of Finding Nemo, blame that on the writers, and that I think is taking it a little too far. But there is a line where you are responsible for the impact your storytelling has on people.
Right.
It might be hard to know where to draw that line, but this is definitely over it.
Like, the worst movie I've ever seen is called Poltergeist, Night of the Chicken Dead. and fuck you, Isaac, because you made me watch that piece of shit. And, like, you know what? I hate that movie with all of my fucking heart, and it's terrible. But it's not presented as reality. I fucking hope.
Yeah.
Although with trauma, it's really hard to tell sometimes.
It's very tongue. It's obviously
like it's ridiculous nonsense, and I hate it. And it's terrible, and it's the worst, and it's awful, and I hate it. And let me make sure you know I hate it, but because I'm such a talented fucking writer. But like it's because this movie is presented in the frame of like this could happen. This could be a real thing. This could be you. Insert your face here. Like, that's the Room. The Room is so misaligned because are you familiar with The Room? At least the lore of it?
Very little, but
The Room,
I know how bad it's supposed to be.
I've seen it. It's terrible. It's well known as like one of the worst movies ever made. But like he believes his own hype 100%. And like it's that sort of thing where like that's the problem I have with romance movies is they can be so easily taken as reality that it just pisses me off. And it's a dumb thing to hate. I know. I'm well aware. And you can, please, by all means, tell me what a piece of shit I am. That's fine. But this is my headspace. And this movie is the crowning achievement of just a shitty technique that's I don't like, and I don't like that it's celebrated. But anyway, let's just get through the last 20 minutes of this movie. So back into the conversation. This is after Ava accuses Chuck of cheating on her. He pulls out a .38 Magnum and shoots her in the head. Oh wait, no. Sorry, that's headcanon. He counters by asking if she's fighting for him or for the marriage, saying she only got married to be able to prove to her patients that her therapy can work. Now, that never was addressed before in this movie, so that's a fucking load of shit. If that was meant to be a theme, it did not come across. He says that getting married was the worst thing that ever happened to them, as they were much happier when they were dating. To take off my hat of indignation and put on my critical cap again, how the fuck would we know that? We didn't see any of their relationship. So that makes this whole plot point kind of worthless, is how can we compare to it? Movies, you show, you don't tell. You don't tell in movies. You're supposed to show us in movies. That's film writing 101. But, so Adriana, the hot secretary chick who Chuck is not fucking, comes in to tell him about his conference call regarding the new Chardonnay is happening in a minute, which, if you can please get me a transcript of any conference call discussing the words, a new type of Chardonnay, I will give you $500. Because clearly the writer of this movie has never been on a conference call if that was the best fake topic they could think of. Because conference calls, it's like putting a gun in your mouth and spinning the chamber and hoping it has a bullet in it. And having a conference call about a type of wine just sounds like I put license plates on things for a living, and I'd rather do that than talk about wine. So Mr. Streisand and Ava talk about Chuck and the marriage, and Mr. Streisand gives her a bullshit piece of homespun wisdom to help her save her marriage. It's related to wine. I don't care. Fuck it. I strongly considered pulling the rest of this review from Wikipedia and moving on with my life, but that wouldn't be the bowels of Netflix, would it? I have to suffer if this show is to survive. So anyway, at Gerber's, Gerber and Chuck have the same sort of talk, where Gerber tells him basically the same thing, only he gets advice related to his situation, because I don't care anymore. So the party is happening, the party that Ava devoted her fucking life to. Everyone's happy but her, because I'm just so burnt out. There's a lot of points we could hit here, and I would happily talk about it if I didn't just bare my soul a little bit back there, so forget it. This movie has one good point, one solitary good point, and the song playing at the surprise party is Dean Martin's Ain't That a Kick in the Head, which is a fantastic song. It features in Fallout New Vegas, which is a fantastic game. I love that goddamn song, and it plays over the credits too. So even a stopped cock is right twice a day.
Did you say stopped clock or stopped cock?
How dare you? You know exactly what I said. Which it's ironically very fitting to me too, because this movie is a kick in the head of how fucking bad it was. But it's a fantastic song, and I encourage you to look it up and pretend this movie never existed. Party, 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 happy, happy, happy. Eventually, Chuck and Ava make up with one another in a scene that is painfully short, considering the myriad bunch of problems they have that, much like their parents, they didn't actually resolve in any way. They drive past each other, get out of their cars, and hug. And this is, I swear to God, I'm not cutting anything out. They each get one piece of advice from Mr. Streisand and Gerber, respectively. And then they don't do anything else to resolve it. They just say sorry. They don't change. Chuck says he's not going to change. They don't grow. They don't learn. They stay exactly the same, but in this version, Ava gets to get everything she wants. Sorry is nice, but it's a Band-Aid. You have to grow to become better.
I should have known it would be this cheap, but...
So instead of going back to the party, they decide to celebrate by finally having sex. Is this the worst movie I've ever seen? No, it isn't. Is it bad? Oh. Is it poorly written? Oh my, yes. Everything about it awful or campy? Very much so. It is. I am going to say this. I've given it a lot of thought, because I actually did this review a while ago. Usually I do them pretty close to before we record, but I did this a while ago. This, I'm going to say, is the third worst movie I have ever seen in my life.
Ooh.
That is behind Poltergeist and another movie called Movie 43, which is another movie you made me watch. Which, if Movie 43 ever comes back on Netflix, you are watching it. I don't care if we've talked about it in the past. You need to experience it. This movie...
I don't know.
Of everything we've watched so far, this is the only one for this show. This is the only one I would say is actively on the list of worst movies I've ever seen from start to finish. The others were bad. I hated them all. But this one really hit me, in case you can't tell. Everything about Ava is so infuriating that it pushes it over the line. Like, the stuff about her that made me mad, that's on top of the rest of this movie just being a bad movie. Like, everything else we'd normally talk about. I just got really focused on that because it's painfully obvious, and the movie's a wet puddle of shit. Also, worst blooper reel ever.
Oh, there's a blooper reel. Ugh.
Like... Yeah, no. This is the third worst movie I've ever seen. It's that bad. It's really, like, I don't know what to say about it. It's
and that's the end. They make up and fuck.
Yeah, they drive off to fuck. Like I really, like, I can't. I know I obsess over the tiniest things, but like it's really that bad.
It sounded like it. Yeah,
like, if you're just into movies being bad because of cinematography and acting, no, it's not the worst. I mean, it's shit, but it's not, there's nothing that stands out. Like, Ava really, her behavior really stands out as, like, the driving force of what makes this so awful. but and it's bad otherwise. But like that really puts it over the line for how just repulsive it is. It's just so. It's the opposite of everything you should want. You know, I have a lot. I'm really an emotional person. In case you can't tell by how much movies upset me. Like, I get really caught up, like, I cry at the end of a lot of TV shows and movies. Like, I just watched the finale to Sense8, which I don't know if you've watched that, Isaac, or if any of you listening have watched it.
I haven't yet.
Have you watched the show?
No.
Not at all? Okay. That was not a well-written finale at all. But, like, it's really well done emotionally. Like, I cried real tears at the end of that. And that was 2 days ago. I cried at the end of I cried at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which is a silly action movie. Like, I'm super emotional when it comes to stuff, so I get really, really invested, even in pieces of shit like this. So this really, in case you can't tell, this really got to me in a bad way. So that's it. That's man. Ava wins. That's my review.
Ava wins.
Is 0 stars, Ava wins. One of the Rotten Tomatoes reviews I remember says, it was something like, if there's a hell for movie critics, it's movies like this playing on a loop. That is accurate.
Oh, God. So, yeah, this movie is basically a metaphor for if Hitler won World War II.
Yeah.
How awful it'd be that he got away with it.
I mean, that's a bit of a heavy-headed metaphor. 6 million Jews dying as opposed to one terrible woman getting everything she wants. But
yeah,
it's a bit heavy.
It's in the ballpark. It's the same themes, Larry. Same themes.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely a villain. She exhibits no good traits.
Yeah,
none. Zero. None.
Pretty remarkable. Like, even with Perfect Sisters, I mean, it was annoying because they punched up how bad their lives were to make them more sympathetic compared to real life, which is part of what it was annoying. But in the movie, you did end up feeling for them, dealing with sexual abuse and their strained, awful relationship with their mom. So you felt sympathy for that stuff. You just didn't accept them taking it to that level. But with this, there's no sympathy at all for fucking Ava. Mm-hmm. Ugh.
Right, and Perfect Sisters is based on a real story. So there's you can they're stupid teenagers. They make bad... Now, I think they're incredibly rewarded for their behavior of murdering their biological mother, but there's quantifiable factors there. They could be damaged psychologically. I assume they are, even if it's not in a forgivable way. It's in a quantifiable way. This is just this is not based on anything except somebody's twisted idea of what a romance is. Ugh.
It's amazing.
Ugh.
I'm pretty stunned by this. I'm usually not very surprised. I'm surprised by this movie. I just thought it was going to be bland, milquetoast rom-com nonsense.
That's what I thought. The first time I watched it through, I thought to myself, what am I going to talk about? Because I got so caught up in, it being a piece of crap romance movie, until I started really combing through the minutia, boy fucking howdy. Man.
Well, that was a wild ride, for sure.
So, I have taken up a lot of your time.
Thank you for making it all the way.
Yeah,
I don't know. This was I felt like a much more... I don't know if I want to say intellectual because that's giving us too much credit, but it fostered a lot of interesting discussion and important things to think and talk about relationships and things like that. So, I don't know. It took us to an interesting place, even though it was so horrible.
I don't have a lot of self-confidence in my ability to, I'll say diagnose, even though that's not really the correct word. It's these sort of things. And, I don't have a degree. I'm not particularly well educated on a post-high school level, but I think it's pretty clear if you watch this and just sort of keep an eye out for the things that I bring up. It's really obvious that she's just horrible. She has no redeeming traits. None. I tried really hard when I thought about this movie. I read the review after I wrote it a day or two later, and I tried really hard to think, to put myself in her shoes, to give her any kind of credit, but there's just none. There's none to give. There is none to give. She is just unequivocally no any sort of fucking way to give her any credit for anything. She is one of the only times I can think of where I've, off the top of my head, where I've seen a movie and has a character that is completely unredeemable and learns nothing and gets everything. So that's it, man. I've said what I had to say. I've said way more than anyone's ever needed to hear about this. I am gonna take off my pants and just be glad it's over. I'm taking off, for clarity, I'm taking off my pants because it's 85 degrees in here. And I'm dying because I've been yelling and I'm mad and I'm drinking hot coffee. I think I'm taking an angry poop.
I'm proud of you for making it through that, and to all our listeners as well. And it was hard for me, too, to listen, even though I reveled in it and enjoyed your suffering. But that was the bells of Netflix.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry you have to listen to me. Isaac's episode is better.
Larry.
Oh, man.
It's like apples and oranges. They're both good. They're just different. And you can't really make an orange pie, but orange marmalade.
Let me tell you, now that I've turned my hate away from this movie, let me turn the hate cannon onto you. You fucked with the wrong guy early.
Yeah. I'm worried about what you're gonna give me at the end of next week's episode.
I don't know that I can find something, because I don't think, like you said, you didn't expect this level of hate. I don't know that I can find something that'll bring this out in you, but boy did I find something that you're gonna fucking hate. You fucked with the wrong man.
Well, we'll find out what that is on next week's episode when we reveal the movies for episodes 14 and 15. But yeah, so we got Twitter, we got Facebook. Those are at Bowels of Netflix. Drop us a line on our Gmail account. That's bowelsofnetflix@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate and subscribe. And also shout out to Kevin MacLeod from Incompetech.com, who's responsible for all of the lovely music you have heard this episode, even the stuff that's playing in this bed underneath us right now. And yeah, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.